schools and how is it overseen? Karen Grenning is the spokeswoman for the Queensland Christian Instruction Network. Karen Grenning, what is the network exactly?
Thank you for inviting me on, Emma. We're a group of Christian religious instruction coordinators across Queensland.
And so who is in charge of the network?
We're just a loose network. We exist to encourage and train religious instruction instructors in our classrooms across Queensland. We want to raise the bar and make sure that all instructors are following policy or aware of it, and to make sure that we're following Education Queensland's guidelines, which we fully support.
And what do you think of what's happened at Windsor State School with the Connect program?
I'm disappointed, I would say. My understanding is that the principal has misunderstood the legislation and the Act and the guidelines. We welcome the fact that our programs are open for review. We believe transparency is very important. There's nothing more important than making sure our classrooms are safe places for our children. But we don't believe that the evidence that he's made is substantiated. There's actually been a legal opinion on that's been provided to Education Queensland.
Ah, right. So who gave that legal opinion?
A barrister has done that.
What, paid for by the Christian Instruction Network?
No, it wasn't paid for.
Okay. Karen Grenning, what about the allegation then that the Connect program has material in it that really does try to solicit children to Christianity, that it's proselytising?
No, that's not true. The writers of the program have written it for state school environments. This debate has existed in other states. In New South Wales, there was a thorough review that lasted 18 months, and it was found to meet all the guidelines in that state. The instructors are fully aware that people have different beliefs in the classroom, and we're just teaching the central Christian truths.
What about the concern that 10-year-olds were reenacting David beheading Goliath?
Yes.
Can you understand why parents found that inappropriate?
Absolutely, and I totally agree. The story of David Goliath is well known to most people, but we acknowledge that reenacting that story is not helpful, and that, in fact, the writers of the program have actually withdrawn that lesson a little while ago. It was written some time ago, and the environment now has changed.
And we did have a chat to John Thorpe from the organisation that wrote the Connect program. He said that the entire program was being reviewed.
Yes, I understand that's the case. I think that all education programs need to be reviewed on an ongoing basis, and they voluntarily are conducting a thorough review at the moment.
And are there other elements of that program, Karen Grenning, that you would like to see ditched?
I'm not aware of any that I would, no. I'm not an expert in writing of curriculums. I think that would be a matter to talk about with them.
And the other concerns and complaints that we've heard this afternoon go to instructors saying to students things like, you are sinful, and it's only through Jesus that you will be cleansed, that if mum and dad say no to something, if you ask Jesus, he will never say no. Instructors holding up a grey rag and a white rag and saying what the white rag is Jesus and the grey rag is all of you because you are dirty. What do you think of that sort of material?
I've got two comments to make on that. Firstly, I'd like to see the evidence of that. I have no doubt that there is the occasional RI instructor out there who is not following guidelines, just like there is the occasional state school teacher also. And the response is not to ditch the whole program or have a major review of a particular subject. It's to bring that person into line and even dismiss them if required. But I do acknowledge the fact that sin is a very important topic. It is part of the central Christian truths. But we need to be very sensitive in our classrooms because of the age of children. We need to be age appropriate at all times. These curriculums have been written to be age appropriate, But children today are confronted with the reality that not everything's right with our world. And as Christians, we believe it's important to talk about how sin does impact our relationship with God and our relationships with each other. And we must remember that the children involved in this program have been opted in by their parents. It is a voluntary program. And my understanding is that the Queensland Parents for Secular State Schools have an agenda to remove not just Christian religious instruction, but all religions from state schools. And so it's not really a review of this curriculum. That's the broad agenda that they do have. And what we believe is that the Queenslanders who want their children to be enrolled in such a program should have the right and the freedom to make that choice, as long as it's informed, and that's about what the program's about, and that's what we do in our state schools here.
Karen Grenning, we've had a lot of feedback on this topic this afternoon. One of the texts that has come in, this person says, I opted my son out of religious instruction after he was told by a teacher he was dirty unless he opened his heart to God. He now spends half an hour a week sitting up the back of another classroom, expected to work quietly by himself. They do the same to punish kids who are being naughty. He thinks he's being punished for coming from a non-religious family. How is this happening in 2016?
Well,
what do you think of that?
I think, first of all, I'd like to know the evidence of that. The facts are that education...
Well, I mean, why would they lie? That's just somebody who's coming in, to the conversation on the program. What would you think about a religious instructor, the teacher saying you're dirty unless you open your heart to God?
The central Christian truths are that none of us is perfect, that only Jesus is, but I think that it needs to be expressed in a different way to that.
How would you teach it to students?
The way I would teach something like that would depend upon the age of the students. And
so for a 10-year-old?
For a 10-year-old, I would say that all of us know that none of us is perfect. But Jesus loves us no matter what we've done. And the overarching story of the Bible, which is the main text of all of these Christian religious curriculums, is that Jesus loves us. That is the message. And if an instructor is emphasising that part, then that's not the story. The story is that Jesus loves us no matter who we are.
And Karen Grenning, is that attributed to the Bible and to Christian teachings, or is that presented by the instructor as a truth?
Instructors have to follow the curriculum, and there are three main curriculums out there. But the text for all the curriculums, the primary text, is the Bible. This is in the Christian program, of course. And the Bible does teach that Jesus loves us and that none of us are perfect. And and we're teaching central Christian truths, and if a parent wants their child exposed to that, then they're free to opt their children in. If they don't want to, then they're free not to. And Education Queensland guidelines are very strict. No child should be within earshot of the lesson if their parents have not opted them in. And I heard Alison Cortis mentioned about children picking up rubbish and things like that. That is against Education Queensland policy, so that's an issue for the school. It doesn't mean that there is a problem with the program. It means the problem with the way the school is running it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Karen Grenning, what kind of checks and balances are there to ensure that the volunteer instructors are sticking to the syllabus and to the policy?
Yes. Well, first of all, classroom teachers are in attendance. No religious instruction teacher is allowed to be alone in a classroom. Teachers have to be there at all times. So they're listening in to start off with. Principals know what the curriculum is, and it's advertised in school letters, links to websites. Parents are very welcome to look at those websites and even ask, as occurs in many schools, to actually have a look at the curriculums. And in one of the schools I instruct in, we invite parents to come into the classroom with an open door policy, because we believe in transparency. We don't want to hide anything at all.
All right, Karen Grenning, thanks very much for the conversation this afternoon.
Thank you very much. much for your time, Emma.
Karen Grenning is the spokeswoman for the Queensland Christian Instruction Network. And another text we've had come in from Richard saying, given I'm spending increasing time after work helping my kids get through the crowded primary curriculum homework, I'm baffled that 30 minutes a week is wasted on religious education when few people believe in the Christian teachings. I certainly don't want my kids being groomed by any religion. If parents want it, they can take their kids to Sunday school. Chris at Caboolture, must say I'm shocked at the ignorance shown regarding religious instruction. You don't need the fiction of religion to teach morals and values. Religion was created to appease our ignorance of the universe around us. Love how religious people would consider. Anyway, I'll leave that last bit out. But Chris at Caboolture, thank you very much for taking part in the conversation this afternoon. It's 5:30 on 612 ABC Brisbane. Karina, I should probably read